And then the next tab over here is our Today screen. So this is where your staff is going to spend the majority of their time. When I first log in and come to this screen, the things that pop up are for me to do individually. So they're specific to the staff that's logged in. So you have the ability to upload and push out policies and procedures for your staff to review. So these things are going to stay on my screen until I actually go in and review them. So to do that, I would just come in here, read the policy or the procedure, click the box, and then acknowledge it.
Every day?
If once I do it, it goes away, but it will stay on there every day until I actually go in there and do it.
I see.
So when your nurse does the care plan does an assessment, it's going to automatically push out a care plan review for your staff to review, so they know if anything's changed with that resident and they know how to take care of them.
Sure.
So when she completes an assessment, your staff's going to get this on their Today screen, and they're going to have to click on it. It's going to pull in all the residents' information. You can look at their care plan history. You can look at where they live in the facility, and then you can go through and read the care plan. Anything that's new since the last assessment was done is going to be flagged for your staff as new, and anything that's a vulnerability is going to be flagged with a vulnerability flag, so your staff know that. So once they go through and they read this whole care plan and know how to take care of this resident, they would come down to the bottom. They're going to click that they read it and click the green acknowledge button. And now that one went off of my list, so I don't have to do it again until she has her next assessment. So now I'm gonna pick what I'm gonna work for today. So I'm gonna pick the date, and I'm gonna pick which provider I'm working as. So this is all customizable according to what you call your staff. So if you have just a day shift and you just have one person working, you can just say day shift or PM or overnight, however you want to name it, we can customize that for you.
We have a 3 shift.
Yeah. So, and then we customize the times also so that the system knows what time things are supposed to be.
Yeah, 9 to 5, 5 to 11,
Yep.
11 to 9 in the morning.
Yep. So we would set up 3 shifts here for you for your facility, and we would set them up for each of your houses.
Sure.
And then we would customize those times for you. So today I'm coming in and I'm going to work as the AM Med Tech. So when I click on that, it's now going to bring up a list of things that I need to do for my shift.
Sure.
This is everything to do in my shift. Anything that's more than an hour late is going to be flagged with a late flag. Your staff can still chart on it, but it's going to require them to put a note into why it's late. We've added some features with COVID-19. One of them is that you can flag a resident as being positive. So right from this screen, your staff is going to know they have to wear the appropriate gear when they go in and take care of this resident. So they can come in here, they can search just by service. So if they want to know who they have to do baths for, they can just put bath in here and it will pull up, and this person doesn't have any baths to do, but maybe it was, you want to know who you all have to give meds to today. It's going to pull up just the medications for me.
Okay.
Or if I'm in working with a client and I want to know just what I need to do for them so I can be efficient with my time, I can just put in part of their name and only their services will show for me to look at. So some of the services have a quick complete button here. So if I go in and I do his chores and everything comes out okay, I don't need to make any special notes, I can just quick complete button and it will go off of my list. So I can also open up those. If there is no button there, that means something needs to be done or recorded in that service before I can complete it or mark it as done. I can also do that with a service that has that button. I can still open it up and make any charting notes as needed, and then complete it. And it will go off of my list. These are those behavior services I was talking about earlier, where you would just come in, click on the behavior service if it was assigned, document how many times they had that behavior for their shift, and then what interventions you used, if any, and then the staff can also write a note down here. If you put a vital sign at the same time as a medication, it will lock them out and not let them chart that medication until they go back and take that vital sign. So this is nice for the meds that require a blood pressure or a blood glucose or a pulse beforehand. I have to go back out and take that vital sign and put in the results here and complete it. Now if I go back and try to do that medication assistance, it's going to let me do it, plus it's going to pull in those actual results. So if you have parameters set up, your staff's going to be able to see if they're within those parameters or not. Do your medications come in, what pharmacy do you use?
Geraton.
Okay. And do your medications come in bubble packs, or do you set them up in caddies, or how do you give your meds?
You mean, how should I receive it?
When the pharmacy sends the medications over, are they in bottles, or are they like in a card with a bubble that you punch them out of the card, or?
Really, I don't sure. Okay. It's coming with the bottles, yes.
Yep. So then,
or the other thing that but not the bottles. Some of they come with something that we punch. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we would set up your database according to how your pharmacy sends the medications over. We have different ways of setting it up for you.
I see.
And then usually this button here is done by your nurse already when she sets up those pills or reviews them for the month when they get there from the pharmacy. And then your staff would come in, and we can customize some of this verbiage too. So if it says just verify, or you call your home health aides CNAs or PCAs or something, we can change that so that it's appropriate for your facility. And then they would just check all the boxes and mark it as administered and complete it. And now it's going to go off of their list of things to do. One of the other things I like to show is if you go into a service and he doesn't want to go for a walk, your staff can decline it. And so that you know that it wasn't done. And it's going to make them put a reason in. So maybe he just refused it today. And then they can confirm it. And it's going to go off the list, but it's going to show on reports that you run that it was not completed for him. The nice thing is
where is the progressive notes? Where is that? What and how they can do progressive notes? Something like that, or it don't exist.
They can either do notes within the service. So a lot of facilities don't even have their direct care staff make notes anymore. They just have them put notes down here and complete it. Or there is
if the patient did not feel good last night, or he have an issue last night, where should you put it? Just the same place that you just showed me?
You can either put it in a service, or there's different ways that your staff could alert someone of that or put a note in for them.
Okay.
Yep. So one of the nice things is that your to-do button here, if you click on that, it turns to your done list. So this list should be empty at the end of your staff shift, and this one should be full.
Sure.
But they do have the ability to redo a service. So where he refused this walk earlier, if he would decide later that he wants to do the walk, your staff can come to this list and click on it, and then click redo, and then it's going to let them put a note in and then mark it as actually complete, so that you know it was declined, but he had refused it earlier. So you do have the ability to work offline. So if you have a place in your facility where you don't have very good internet service, or you know the internet's going to be down for a while, your staff can click on this button and confirm it, and it's going to load everything onto their device. So they can go about their day and do all their charting. And it's going to tell them here that they're offline, so they can go about and do their charting. And then when they go back online, it's going to load everything back up onto the software at the time it was actually performed, and not at the time that they went back online. We just recommend, if they do that, that they go back online every couple of hours to avoid anything being lost in the system. Also on the screen is our plus more button. So this screen is customizable, and what you see on here is based on a hierarchy and your provider type. So administration and nurses, for the most part, are going to see everything on this screen, but your direct care staff won't see a lot of this. They'll see a few things over here. So it's based on what they need to see. Over here is how we set up your campus. You have the ability to send out campus memos or upload or scan in documents to the campus. You can schedule activities. So if you have scheduled activities that you want your staff to perform, you can actually schedule them, that they have to chart off on that today screen that they did them. And you can also create activity calendars for your residents to have, so they know what's going on for activities in your facility. You can schedule chores, so if you have cleaning or temperature checks on your fridges, or things that aren't related to a resident but they're related to the facility, you can set up chores for a staff to perform them, so you know that someone's being held accountable for those items. And then here is where we would set up your providers and your units and customize some of that verbiage for you. And then this is where we would set up your campus information. And then global services and medications are things that only certain people will have access to in your facility. Here is where you would upload policies and procedures into the system. And then Pharmacy Connect is a one-way interface with the pharmacy, that they can push any new meds or changes over to you, and your staff can merge them with current medications. So any questions so far on this screen?
No.
All right. So also on this screen over here, your staff can document unscheduled activities. So if they take somebody for a walk or play games with the residents, you want to have them document that, so you have a way to get paid for that service. So they would come in here, pick the date and the time and what they did. When they pick what they did, it's going to automatically pull in one of the 5 dimensions of wellness here. They're going to pick their group size. Was it a small group or one-on-one? Who did it? How long it took them to do that.
Where do you get from this one? It's add new activity. Okay.
Yep. This is an unscheduled activity. So you can actually schedule activities, but your staff can also do unscheduled activities. So if something comes up and they take people for a walk or do something that wasn't planned, they can still document that they did it and who attended it. And then they can, then you can run a report to see who's going to which activities and that type of thing.
It's like BRN, huh?
What? Yeah, like a
BRN, yeah, it's something that unscheduled.
Yep. And they can do the same with chores and services. So if they clean the bathroom an extra time or mop the floor in the dining room, they can document that.
We can do it, schedule that, because we do that every day.
Yeah, but maybe they had to do it an extra time or something. They can document that they did it an extra time. You know, maybe they cleaned the bathroom and then somebody made a mess in the bathroom. They can, document that they had to do it an extra time.
Again, yeah.
And the same with unscheduled services. So if somebody wants an extra bath or you do something that wasn't scheduled for a client, your staff can document that so you can charge accordingly for that. COVID-19 again, you can mass upload test results and vaccination data in the system.
Yes.
Here is where your staff would come to chart PRN medications. So if they give a PRN, they can do it from the medication service itself, or they can come here and do it, or they can do it from the resident profile. So they would come here, pick the date and time, and then which resident they gave medication to.
Yes.
These medications are specific to this resident, so this list will be different for each resident. So maybe I'm going to give him some Tylenol. Now it's going to want me to verify that I have the right dose and the right time and the right medication,
Yes.
why I'm giving it. Maybe he has a headache today. And then you can have it be required to schedule a follow-up in a certain time period for someone to go back and see if that medication was effective. So this is saying in 60 minutes, I have to pick somebody to go back and check with him to see if it was effective or not. If it's the end of my shift, the system knows that, and it's only going to give me the next shift to pick from.
Yes.
I'm going to pick that person, and then I'm going to administer it. Two things. Now, if I would go back and try to give this medication again, I'm going to get a pop-up banner that tells me it was just given. So I need to double check if I really want to give it again or not.
Okay.
So kind of a double check on that. And then if I go back to that today screen and go to the PM person, you can see now this is that PRN follow-up that it made me schedule, so that someone will go in at 3:30 or before that and see if it was effective or not.
Why is it not saying complete here, or it's already done?
Because this is my follow-up.
It's just a follow-up. Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so this is what I need to go back in an hour and see if it worked or not.
I see.
So this, and how long it took to take effect for that client. So, and then your nurse can come here to review the administered PRNs or if medications were refused. Do you ever send medications out of the facility with a client?
They go out, yeah.
Yep, so if they take medications with them, your nurse can review which medications were sent, and we have a nice report that your staff can print off and send with the client or the responsible person for that. Here they can also do unscheduled vitals, so this is a good place for if they're not feeling well and the nurse tells them to go get a set of vitals. They can come in here and do those vitals and make any notes in here about what's going on with that client. And then your nurse can look at those. And then you can still schedule vitals, like if you have monthly vitals or weekly vitals, you can still schedule those for them to do, but this would be like if they weren't feeling well and you just did an extra set of vitals. And then your nurse can look at them and also review any out of range vitals. This is just a link back to that time clock. So your staff can punch in and out if you have it. If you don't have it, this won't even show up on this screen. You can also track staff meetings and in-service trainings and attendance. We have an internal messaging service. We call it Snap Messages, where you can send messages to other staff members within the system. So you can pick a group of people. So if I want to send a note to all my home health aides or direct care staff, these would be according to what your facility calls them and just the provider types that you have. But it will mark all of the home health aides for me. Or if I want to send it to everybody, I would just click all checks everybody, or I can just pick one person to send a message to.
Okay.
I can type in a subject in my message, and then I can click send. If I have any messages, it's going to flag down here with a message with the little flag here.
Okay.
So this is saying I have 2 messages that I need to go in and address. So I can either click on this to get to those messages, or I can click back on that plus more screen on the inbox to look at those messages. And then you can also look at what messages you've sent to staff. So resident notes, this is where you were asking about the progress notes. This is where if you want your direct care staff to do notes, they would see this. If you don't, they won't see it. But your direct care staff could come here, or your nurse or whoever, to make a note. They would put in the date and the time, pick the resident, and then what type of a note it is. And then you can manage note types. So if the note type you want isn't listed here, you can add that by clicking on this little manage note types.
What about
you can,
okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Where is the incident report?
I'm going to show you that in a little bit.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So with the notes, you can also set up templates. So if there's something like specific questions in an admit note that you want addressed, you can create a template so that prompts the person doing the admit to make sure they answer all of those questions. You can also add the same note to additional residents. So with COVID, we had a lot of facilities that wanted to add just a general note that they did the testing or the vaccination. They could just put a simple note in here that was just generic, and then they could put it into additional charts so that they didn't have to retype the same note over and over again. So, and then you can view and manage note types here. So, and task manager would just be, you can set up reminders for yourself or others for certain things to pop up on your today screen that you need to remember. So maybe you need to remember to call a family member one day next week. You can create a task for yourself or somebody else to do that. And when it's set up, then when I punch in or go to my today screen along with those care plans and those policy reviews, there would be a task for me to do on that particular day. So that's the plus more screen. So then we can go over to the clinical tab. This is where your nurse, for the most part, is going to spend her time. This is one place she can go to do an assessment. So if she clicks on that, she would pick the person she's going to do an assessment on. These are the assessments that are available. All of our assessments are customizable. So if there's something in an assessment you want changed or different, we can do that for you. We've added the pre-admission assessments so that that can be done in accordance with the new regulations. So your nurse would just come here, and then these are additional assessments that we have available that can be used. So your nurse would come in here, do her clinical update. So she would pick that she did it in person, then she would put the reason why, if it's just an update, and then she would start the assessment. Once you do it, she does an assessment, it's going to pull in all of the previous information so she can go through this assessment and just make changes. She doesn't have to start from scratch every time she does an assessment. So she would come in here, make appropriate changes. She can look at what services are already scheduled for this client, or she can change them, or she can add new services from here if it's appropriate. So she would go through and add in all of the assessments, answer all the questions. And then when she's done, there's a link here that she can look at allergies right from the screen, in addition to the resident's profile. So she can just click on this, it will pull in all this information. She doesn't have to go searching for it. And then before she can complete it, it's going to make her pick when the next one is due. So she can keep the existing date. She can pick, here's where you were asking about the 14 days, 30 days. She can pick a specific date that it's going to be due, or she can just click in the box and it will give her a calendar and she can pick a date from it. And then she can make a note if appropriate. And then she just marks it as complete. Once she marks it complete, that's what's going to push out that care plan review for your staff to do. So, incidents. So here's our incidents where your staff would come to do that. Our incidents are customizable also. So if there's something you want changed or different, we can make that happen. Your staff would just click report an incident, pick the date and the time that it happened. What was it, a resident, a staff, or we do have the ability to set up audits. So I'm just like to show the fall assessment, but these are the different types of incident reports we have in the system right now. So for a fall, I'm going to pick who fell. Now it's going to bring in a list of questions that your staff needs to answer related to that fall. If there's a red asterisk in the corner, they have to answer the question before it will let them submit it. So they would go through and answer the questions. They can pick from the drop down in some of the boxes, or they can type, or they can do both. You can just go through. I'm just going to answer as you pick if they had any injuries. So maybe he had a bruise and abrasion. Did he have his glasses on or his walker? Were they able to call for help? And again, you can add more information in here, who they called, what happened,
so
any witnesses.
So the incident report is in case, example, can you give me example, what's the incident report like when you have a seizure? We have to report what other things that we have to report as incident.
A lot of the times facilities report falls, medication errors, seizures.
I see.
A lot of facilities have a lot of different things, but that's just a few examples I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay.
And then what's the supervisor called and 911. What happened? I'm just typing in. And then we can also add a body diagram in here. So up here where I said he had an abrasion and a bruise, I can come down to this body diagram and I can click on the body part where he had those injuries. And it's going to give me a line down here so that I can indicate which injury he had in which location. So I can just keep clicking for as many injuries as they want. If I click too many times, I can just click on it and it goes away. Once they're done with filling in all this information and they submit it, this is saying that you can require vitals to be taken after an incident happens. So this is saying once I submit this, I'm going to be taken right to that vital screen. So I'm going to submit it. If I didn't have everything completed, it would give me a flag and show me what still was missing. So here's the vital screen for this resident. I can fill it in appropriately. If you require all the vitals to be done, your staff would need to know that, and they can do the vitals, or if they just want specific ones done.
What does that mean?
They can do those.
Can you go up a little bit? I just want to see what that means. MGDL, what that mean?
Just the blood sugar result.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So if he wouldn't have a blood sugar, if he's not diabetic, this wouldn't be on this report.
I see.
Yeah, this screen. So then your staff can go through and answer all the vitals questions, how long it took them to take those vitals. And then this is a nice feature that I like to show. You can send this as a snap message. So you can send notes in any service that your staff makes. They can send it as a snap message. So maybe I was supposed to take vitals after this fall and let the nurse know what those vitals were. If I click this box, it's going to take me right to that snap message screen when I save it. So when I get that, now I can just go ahead and pick the nurse on call. And then it's going to pull in the resident, the name, the unscheduled vitals, all those vital results so your staff doesn't have to retype it. Plus, then they can make a note. So maybe they just want to put in vital signs taken after a fall. And then they can just send it right from here to the nurse. And now the nurse has all that information right down here. She just has to click when she logs in. She's got all that information right at her fingertips. So those are the incident reports. After the incident report's submitted, your nurses or someone's going to want to go in and review those. So then they would come here and view them. And you can see here if it's not been reviewed, it's got the orange flag. So she can come in, click on it. She has the ability to edit anything that the direct care staff wrote or whoever filled out this report wrote. If she edits it, and adds anything to it and saves it, it's going to update with the time and the name of the person that made the edit. So you can see here the time is different on these two so that it's still accurate for charting history. She's going to want to review it and come down to the bottom, and now
who's going to review it? Who's going to review it?
For most of the time, the nurse will review it.
I see.
Some facilities, administration may review it, and it will depend on what type of a incident it is.
I see.
You know, if it's a med error or a fall, you're probably going to want to have your nurse do it. But if it's something disciplinary, you may do it as an administration person. So when she reviews it, then she's going to have a list of additional questions that she needs to answer. So, you know, did she call the family? She can put yes, and then she can put who she called and any notes from that conversation. Same with the doctor. Maybe it wasn't any bad injuries, but she wants to talk to the doctor about why he's falling all the time. And then she's going to want to put a reason or something in here to help note that she's going to try to prevent that fall from happening again. So maybe safety checks, and if he is falling a lot, maybe she wants to get a therapy referral. And then she would complete it. And now she can either print out that report and fax it right from the system to whoever needs to see it, and you can see the results there of that. So you can dispose of medications in the system and require a second staff signature. This is where your nurse is going to set up and review those medications when they come from the pharmacy, or if she sets them up in a planner. She would pick the dates that she's setting the meds up for or reviewing them. So if your medications come from the pharmacy once a month, she can take for a whole month. She'll pick the resident she's looking at for medications. It's going to pull in just his medicines. And then she's going to go through and mark which medications she's setting up. Once she sets them up for all the days, she'll have a little green dot up here so she knows that she's set up all of those medications for that time period. And then she would just go down the list and do all the residents that she's setting up medications for. You can look at the charting history, and then here's those medications sent out of facility. So if you have somebody that's going to be leaving over med pass or overnight and you're sending meds with them, you would come here and pick the dates. So maybe he's going to be gone till tomorrow morning, and then the name of the resident. It's going to pull in his information and then all the medications that he could have while he's out. This is our demo database, so things aren't complete, but he would have already had this dose this morning, so I wouldn't even be able to chart this one that I'm sending it.
So that way, when the person is out, and we don't have to chart.
Right. Yep. Okay. So, because you'll mark it that you sent them with the person and which ones you sent, and then when you're done, you could come down here and print report. And now this is going to be something that you can send with that person that's responsible for those meds. And it's going to pull in your facility information, the name of the resident, and then the medications and the times that they're supposed to receive them. And then there's also a spot down here for you and your staff and the responsible person to sign stating that they were given the medications with the correct directions. So a lot of facilities will print off 2 copies and send one with the client, and then they'll scan the other one back into the resident's profile. So, and then it'll be marked off on their...
Where we can put the resident profile? For the,
I'm going to do that next.
Next, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So if you have any narcotics in your facility, you can do the narcotic count within the system. So you have the ability to require a witness and do the shift count and everything in the system if you do that.
Yes.
You can track medications received from the pharmacy. And then this would be doctor's appointments that are coming up. So you can create the paper right from here to send with the resident to go to the doctor.
Okay.
You can pick what type of appointment they have. And again, that's something you can, if it's not listed, you can add it in, the date and time. And then you would fill in all the information. You can set up a reminder so that it pops up on that today screen for your staff to remind them to have that person ready to go for that appointment. And then you can print off the papers for the staff to send with them to that appointment. So
how you can print that? How you can print that?
Yeah, you would just go here and click on it. You would go to the back to that screen, click on that referrals and appointments, and then you would view the created ones, and then you would just click on the one that's coming up, and then you would click print. All right, so then this is the paper that you would print off to send to that doctor's appointment. So you can see here it pulls in all the extra information, plus at the bottom, it's going to give room for the doctor to write any comments, new orders, and then sign it and return it.
Okay.
So, and then if you do have the fax feature, you can fax it right from the screen.
What does this mean? What does that mean? DRN and DNI?
That's like their code status. So if they want CPR or not.
I see.
Yeah. You can, some of these flags will auto-populate based on information added into the system.
I see.
So when you put the code status in, it's automatically going to put a flag in their profile stating if they want CPR or if they're a do not resuscitate.
I see.
Or if they're on hospice or you said seizures, you can indicate that this client has seizures.
Sure.
Different information that's put into the system. And then after your clients return from their appointments, your nurse is able to go in and review those referrals and make any changes and make sure that you got that referral back from them or that paper back from them.
Where should we put that one in case he brings back something from the doctor?
Yeah, if they bring something back from the doctor, then the nurse can come in here and she can review it. And complete it, and then it's going to bring in she can write any notes she needs to bring. But these will stay on here like this until your nurse goes in and does reviews them after they happen. So
what about if the doctor gives them a new medication?
So then he would write it on that paper, and then he would send it to you, and then he also is going to need to send it to the pharmacy. And then
who's supposed to do that? The doctor or our nurse?
The doctor will send it to the pharmacy.
I see.
Yeah. And then when the pharmacy gets it, if you have Pharmacy Connect, they can notify you of that change. And if you don't have Pharmacy Connect, then you would just need to make sure you noted it in the residence chart and make the appropriate changes manually.
Mm-hmm.
So, Next, we'll look at the profiles. So the residents and the staff would each have their own profile. This verbiage is customizable. Do you call your residents or do you call them clients, or?
I think we call resident will be better, but like right now we call client, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we can change it. So whatever you want it to say, we can make this say that.
Yeah, resident is good. Okay.
Yeah. So if I click on resident, this is going to show me all of the residents in my campus. So for you, you would just have the 3 or 4 or 4 or 5 listed here. So this is each individual like client chart. So when I click on this client, this is like his paper chart. And then these are like all the tabs within the chart. So here's the resident's profile. So when you admit a client, you would just click add a new resident here, this button, and then add in all the appropriate information for that client. If you click save down here, it will show you what information is required. It'll flag it with a red. And you add in all the information, and then it will create a profile, and it will look like this. So if I click in his profile, this is all that information I added on that page when I created it. So you can see these little flags up here. So he's on a blood thinner and he's a do not resuscitate. You can update the profile. Maybe he wants to change to some, he wants to be a full code now, something changed. If I save it, now you can see that little flag up there changed. So your staff always knows at a glance what their code status is.
Okay.
You can transfer them from one room to the other, or if they're going to be out of your facility for a few days or they're in the hospital, you can put them on hold so that the staff doesn't have to decline services while they're gone. It just will put their services and everything on hold, and then you can discharge them. You can add a photo in for them. And then this is some of the stuff we've already talked about. This is just another way to get to some of the other things that we visited about, like the assessments. Your nurse can get to the assessments here too. Here's where she would go to add in all their diagnoses. For the most part, there's always a add a button. So they just click on that. It brings up the information they need to fill in and puts it into their profile.
Where is the doctor's order yearly for we wanted every year the doctor or the pharmacy we have to update every year?
Yep. So every client, every resident profile has this MD orders tab here. So they would just click on here, they would create a new orders, put in the dates, and then this is what it's going to look like when your nurse prints it out to send it to the doctor. So this is all of his medications, all of his diagnoses and information, his services, and then here's a summary, and then a signature for whoever is sending the report to the doctor, and then here's a place for the doctor to fill in anything new and him to also sign it.
I see.
And then there's also, you can, then your nurse would want to go in and review that, so you can track and double check to make sure that those orders are received when the doctor sends them back. Down here is where you would add in all the medications and assign them for your staff to give. So this is all of the medications that this client takes. You can add a new medication here. And then just fill in all the information. You can make them scheduled or PRN. So if it's a PRN med, you can indicate that here and put in the appropriate information. We can create sets. So if you have like routine standing orders, we can create a set of routine standing orders. So your nurse doesn't have to enter each medication individually. It will pull the whole set into the resident's list. When they add those medications, then it's going to have them set up when and how often it's supposed to be given. and all of that information.
What that mean? Pharmacy connect. Okay, come in. Later.
So Pharmacy Connect is our one-way interface. So if a resident, and we do Pharmacy Connect with Jared Tom, so we can do that. So this is telling me this client has 13 new medications that were sent over from the pharmacy that someone needs to do something with. So most of the time it's going to be your nurse. So she's going to want to come to this resident's profile. She's going to follow that blue flag. And now when she clicks on this, it's going to show the medications that the pharmacy has on file that they sent to you that need to be addressed. So then your nurse would need to go into each one and either update an existing order. So if they're already on this, they can compare them side by side with the medication that they're already on that's the same as this, and decide which one they want to keep, or if they're going to, merge them. They can add it as a new one and set up the schedule and assign it for someone to give right from there, or they can reject it, so that if it's something that's happened in the meantime and that resident's no longer on it, they can just reject it. When they reject it, it doesn't notify the pharmacy. Your nurse would still need to call the pharmacy about that, but it would go off of that list of medications that she needs to address. So, and you can look at the history of Pharmacy Connect also from here. You can look at the schedule, so you can see what meds she's getting at what times. If she has a group of meds that you want to reschedule the time for all of those medications, you can just click reschedule, put in the new time and save it, and it will change all of those medications to that new time. And then this is a list of medications that she's been on in the past that she's no longer on, and your nurse can restart it from here. So it saves a lot of data entry if she can do that. So any questions on the medication profile?
No.
The medication. Okay. Also in their profile, resources would be their clinics, doctors, and pharmacies, so you can enter all of that information in here. And again, you would just click add a health professional, or for organization, you can add an organization, you can pull in all of that. And you can also enter in all their insurance information if you want to. Here's another way for your staff to either enter vitals or your nurse to review them. Documents, there's no limits on documents, so you can upload and scan in documents as you want. So you would just click new document, you can drop it and drag it or upload it into here. You can title it and put it under a certain category. And here again, there's the blue manage button, so you can add a document type if it's not listed. Here's another way to do those nursing notes that we talked about earlier. The service plan would be all the services that you're providing for this client. So your nurse can come in here and add a new service, or whoever does your data entry can add in what service you're providing, how long it should take to complete that, when it's supposed to start. You can pick, is it every day, specific certain times of the day? Is it every day, 3 times a day, or is it certain days a week? So you can pick, maybe they get a bath on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You can indicate that, and then it would only pop up on their today screen on those specific days. If I put too many times here, I can just delete them and they go away. I can use specific times like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 4:15, or I can just pick simplified times for services. I can for meds too, but we generally don't encourage that. But this would be like AM, PM, bedtime, kind of generalized times. And then who's going to perform that service? So, the PM home health aide person is going to help him get ready for bed at night. And then any specific instructions for your staff to know. they can look at the schedule. So again, they can reschedule a group of services. So, you know, maybe these things at midday, they want to reschedule all of them, and they can just click reschedule and change the time, and it will change all of them. And you can also look at the history of any services that you've provided in the past for the client. Incidents, just another way to do incident reports and those referral and appointments. And tasks
this
again.
This is screen where you came from. In order me to get here, where you came from? Just
up here under profiles.
And then resident. Okay.
Yep, and then I pick whichever resident I want to view.
Okay.
Yep. And then we did MD orders. Contacts would be like their emergency contacts and social workers. So you can enter as many of those in as you want.
Sure.
And you just add a new and then put in all the information. Reports are specific things, just another way to get to reports, but they're more directed at the specific resident. Trends, maybe you like to look at things in a graph form. You can look at different trends. This is customizable also, so you can look at like what types of incidents are happening, if he's refusing meds, or if he's getting a lot of PRNs, blood sugars or vital signs, those types of things. You can look at them in a flow sheet type form.
So if we chart late, so let's say computer, something wrong with the online, and we charted late, and all we have to do, even though it's late, we have just to put a note there. Is that what you're telling us before?
Yeah, usually if like medications are late, it will have your staff, it will require your staff to put a note in order to chart that medication.
I see.
So like, if I can find one here, I'm in the morning, afternoon stuff. So here where this medication is late, when I come in to administer it, it's gonna make me put a note in here as to why it's late. So you could put, you know, system down, or maybe it was given on time. You know, you can create little snippets in different areas of the program too, with quick blocks of text that you use a lot, so you don't have to always type it over. Maybe you can just put it was given on time.
I see.
And you would have a record of why it was given late.
This is Snabbit. Snabbit is can I add more?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep. They're customizable too, so yep, you can add different types in depending on your provider type. So so that's pretty much the resident profile. Next, we can look at the staff profile. So each of your staff is also going to have a profile similar to the resident profile, where you can track different information for them. So if you have a new staff starting again, you would just click the new staff button and fill in the information needed, and it's going to give your staff a profile or a button like a resident profile.
Okay.
So if you click on a staff profile here, you can look at that. You can put a picture in. This is all the information, and you can update that information as needed.
Wow, okay.
You can deactivate them. So if they leave your facility for some reason, you will want to, you know, deactivate them so they can't go in and do something in the system that they shouldn't do.
Okay.
If you have a new staff that's starting, you can populate and push out all the care plans and all the policies for them to do on that first screen we showed you, where they need to go in and review each one individually when they start. You can track certifications. You can look at their login history and where they've been within the system. Documents, again, the same as a resident. You can upload and scan in documents and put it into the resident profile. You can track their meetings and in-service training attendance. Their health status would be allergies and tuberculosis and hepatitis B shots. Those things you can manage in the system. Again, these are reports more directed at this particular staff member. And then security. So this is how you give them access and decide what they can do in the system.
Sure.
So when you set up their profile, you're going to give them a provider type. Our provider types are based on a hierarchy. So what administration can see, they can see everything below them. But like the home health aide or direct care staff, they can't see any of the things above them, certain information that they can see. And for you, these will be customized to what your facility has. So if you just have, administration, RN, and a direct care staff, you would just have those 3 provider types listed. And then here is where you give them access to log into the system. Here's where you can restrict them so they can only access the system when they're at your IP address. This is saying I have a supervisor access, so I can access it from anywhere. But if I didn't have a supervisor access, you could restrict them so they can only chart at your facility.
For employees, you mean, right?
Yep. Yep. So like your nurse and your administration, like yourself, you're going to want to be able to have them get into the software no matter where they're at, so they can always know what's going on.
Okay.
But your people taking care of your residents, you probably only want them charting at your facility or at the home. So, and then here is where you would give them access to campus. Again, I have a supervisor title, so I have access to all the campuses. But if I didn't, this is where you would restrict them to, like, if they have access to just 1 campus or 2 campuses. So that would look like the resident data access. So, you can restrict by residents too. So if you have like a hospice nurse that comes or a therapy person, you can set them up with a profile so they can chart in our test. And then you can just give them access to specific residents that they would need access to. So if Sally has hospice, I can set up a hospice nurse for her and then just give the hospice nurse access to Sally so she doesn't see everybody else's information. And that would be the same for campuses. And then we have additional roles that you can grant for each of your staff depending on what's appropriate. And our implementation team will help you decide which roles are appropriate for which staff members when they help you get everything set up and started with the software.
So what about if the person is a caregiver and also HHA and also is a administrator? They can be both, right?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, good.
You would give them access according to what they need access to.
Sure.
That's why we have all the extra roles that
Yes.
You can give according to what they need.
Okay.
So we do have a backup. So if for some unknown reason the software would go down, you would want a couple people that have access to this vault.rtas.net. It's a separate website that's updated on a regular basis every so often during the day. That's up-to-date information on your facility, so you can print out reports and things so your staff can still continue to care for your residents without any downtime while the outage is going on. Hopefully that would never ever happen, but it's a backup if it does. So that's the resident profile. And then we also have a prospects profile. So this is nice for those now that the pre-admission assessment is required. You can create a prospect profile.
What do you mean prospective profile?
Like somebody that wants to come to your facility. So if you have someone that calls and said, I want to come to your facility, you can create a prospect profile for them. So your nurse can go out and do that pre-admission assessment that's now required, and it doesn't affect your census and your reports that way.
So a new person, you mean, new client?
Yep. because now for the new assisted living, you need to go out and make sure they're appropriate for your facility. So the nurse has to go do an pre-admission assessment before you can admit them.
Okay.
So you can create a profile and she can go ahead and add in all of this information for this prospect, so that it's there if they do decide to come to your facility.
Sure.
If they do decide to come to your facility, when you click admit, all this information that you've already added into this profile will transfer into their resident profile. So you don't have to re-enter all that information again.
I see.
And that would include the pre-admission assessment too. So, yeah. And then also under this tab is just a list of, a way to get a list of all of the contacts and all of the resources for everyone in your facility. We do have a billing and an accounts receivable features that are available for an additional fee each month. If you're interested in that, we usually get you set up with our billing specialist just because they're so customizable and specialized that they do a much better job of showing you what those features can do. But they are available.
Sure.
So, and any of our additional features, you can add those at any time. And if you add them and you don't like them, you can stop them also at any time. So that's pretty much the whole system. Any questions or anything you want to see more of, or
and just for let's, like, my first question, if how we can show them that these people works for they work is for last 5 days or 10 days, and for that, so I can show them to the DHS this person was working for me.
Okay. So there would be a report that shows if they're logged into the system or not that you could run for that. That's going to show that they were logged into the system and what they actually charted while they were in the system.
Okay. Where is that report? Can you create that report or no? Sample report?
Tiffany, do you happen to know which report it would be off the top of your head that they would be looking, you would want?
Staff activity trail? Because that would show when they logged in and which IP address.
So then you can pick which staff you're looking for.
Sure.
And then you can put in the dates of the time frame. So maybe from August 1st to now, you want to know what she was doing in the system.
Okay, sure.
And it's going to pull up a report that looks like this. Maybe my computer's saying enough.
That's okay.
Obviously, the longer the report, the longer it takes to load.
Yes. I know.
So this is going to show all the times that she logged in and which IP address she logged in from.
I think it also shows what.
Yeah, and then it also shows what services she performed and the date and the time that she did them.
I see.
And any notes. Is that kind of like what you're looking for, do you think?
And where is the client names? Resident, it's right there. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Yes.
So